Okay, this is CHZ. We're looking at the weekly chart, and we've got, let's have a look, we've got a bit of a downtrend behind us, and really we've got lower lows and lower highs, so we want to put in a higher low before we are too interested in the long side. But I can probably put a little channel here just for us to look at. Let's connect those two, that there, and I'll put a center line in. That sort of works. That sort of works for us as a bit of a channel. It's probably not quite right. I'm just going by eye now. There we go. So put in a down move. It's moved. Well, we've only put the channel in since this pivot high, so let's have a look. And then I'll mark off some high volume bars. It should be the low of that one as possible resistance point, so I'll put the low of that one in. That sort of work for us. And got the low of this recent one. And so we'll have we want to at least get away from this downtrend, and we've also probably got another line over here. That's probably, I mean, if it got up to that downtrend, it wouldn't be a downtrend, would it? But I think if we can get away from this this downtrend channel up, downtrend line here, that would be good. Put in some sort of higher low, and we want to break above, probably on the weekly chart, we want to break above the low of this bar and come back and retest, or break out of the channel and come back and retest. Then we can have a look. We might have a look at the daily chart on that. This is CHZ too, I don't know if I mentioned. I might just get rid of those lines. I might just put a little pitchfork in there because I can see one there. Oh, there we go, there's a good one. Okay, so that sort of framed the price for us quite well, so we'll go with that. Now we can lock in our, you can see it, I'll just mark off our high volume bar, and mark off the low of that bar and the high of that bar. And our most recent one is this one here. Actually, I might just move that and just use that one. That's worked for us. So they're just levels to watch when it gets up there. Our most recent one, that's of more importance, right, for the short term, is this one here. So we had high volume down, but it's closed well off the low, so smart money typically will buy on down bars, and it's rolled around, gone up. It's pushed up, but on very light volume, so that's quite weak. We want to see it pushing through there on increased volume, and then come back and test, but it hasn't really done that. It's just sort of dribbled on up there, and I think the rise we've had this week has helped that up, but it's very retail, and we've got a lot of weakness behind us to overcome, and not a lot of strength. That's our potential strength there, but it's on really light. You know, the volume's not that great. You can see our previous, that's a really highest volume bar over there. And we've got that one there. So that's the one we're watching now, and we want to get it. We want to break above there convincingly and come back and retest. But because we're in a downtrend, we're paying particular attention to weak bars when they appear. Because sometimes when our strong bars appear in a downtrend, they just shift us sideways a bit. I'll just see if that's around an old top there. It looks like an old top there. That's provided that bit of support that's come in. So I think that might move. That's got a bit sideways movement to go yet before it accumulates. That could possibly be the beginning of some accumulation. So, but this move up out of there doesn't look that convincing at the moment. And it still looks very retail what's happening here, and we've got all trapped holders and right above us here to that we've got to work our way through. So I would be looking at the weekly chart on that one and waiting for it to put in a higher low, and then we can have a look at it on the weekly. And we probably need to really put that line in. I want to get above that line there and put in a higher low, and then we can have a look for it, possible long entries, because there's not a lot of activity down in the bottom here. So that's CHZ for us. So this is CNN, Cardia Bioplastics Limited, not the TV channel. And we can have a look. Oh dear, this is now, what is it, a 1 cent stock. This is the weekly chart, and you can see these volume spikes. They go right up and down, right up and back down. So it's being sold into as soon as it's trying to rise. It's been sold into heavily, and that's knocked it. That's what's knocked it down. It looks flat there, but when you zoom in a bit, it's gone from 20 cents to 1 cent roughly, and even from our recent lot, it's gone from 4 cents to 1 cent. So you can see how that works. Smart money typically sell on up bars. When you see really high volume and then it's closing low, you know it can't be all buying because it's closed on the low. So there must have been some announcements or some speculation. The herd typically buy those, and smart money, the professional money on the market, move into sell into that demand. If they're both buying together, you wouldn't close on the low like that. So we're going to what can we do? I'll probably mark off the low of that more recent high volume one, maybe even the low on the close. And we'll go to a more recent one. We'll mark off the low of that bar. And as we come down into the bottom, we get some high volume down bars now, or an increase in volume, and narrow spread. So there's some buying coming in at the bottom here, definitely. But as it tries to go up and then knock it back, comes back, and get really high volume up. And we're in morning now, so it possibly could be absorbing supply here. It's come back down on light volume to test, really high volume up in 2 days. Come back down on less volume, so testing that supply, and then there's not a lot of supply there at the moment. So it looks like there's been some attempt to absorb supply, because it's gone up on high volume, down on low volume, up on high volume, up on high volume, back down on decreasing volume. So they're testing that supply. So it looks like there's some absorption, a bit of absorption happening there. But we've got to be very careful, because we really want to put in a higher low now just to check. I'll just mark off those two at the bottom there, and that top there. I'll put in a center line. I wonder if I can put in a pitchfork. Not quite, it's a bit messy. But if I just mark off those first two lows and then parallel that up, and then put in a center line. So we're still definitely in a downtrend. There's no two ways about it. There's a lot of activity now happening on the weekly chart. The bars themselves are weak because they're up bars, but because they keep pushing up and then back down on less volume, so high supply, a lot of supply going up. Even though there's buying, there's also a lot of supply. And then they test that supply on less volume, and started a little bit of an up move, so we don't really know what's going on there. But what we want to see now, what I would want to see is for a higher low to form, and I would probably I'd want to get above at least the close of some of these spiky bars to be really comfortable with it. And or we could have a look at our see, they've come back on lighter volume and tested that. That's a test on lighter volume. So this can go higher yet, but we are in a downtrend, so we've got our resistance lines there to watch, and we've got the top of the channel there. So if we start getting some really weak bars in that area, we know to look out. But they've got pushed up on high volume. They've broken out of this last little bit of pattern here. Low volume down, up, but they come back and test. And they test because there's still high volume there, so they may test even further yet because the volume is still quite high. But that looks like it's trying to make a move up. But with all this volume coming in, but it's a bit hard with a 1 cent stock because it can be quite erratic. But at the moment, that looks, it's the result of your initial volume here that spiked is that we've moved up and we've come back down on lighter volumes. So a lot of absorbing supply from the left, a lot of buying, but also a lot of selling, and then come back to test to show that the selling's been reduced. And so that can move higher yet, I think. But we want to get out of this bit of a downtrend channel. It's a bit of an awkward one because of these spikes. Really, you just want to get ideally you'd want to get above that 4 cents first, you know, above these really spiky. And that means you miss a lot, but your safer entries will be above there. And if it wants to start an uptrend, the safer entries will be above there, and it comes back and retests. But because at the moment you're still trending down, there's no two ways about it. When we're in a downtrend, even though we've got some strong bars appearing in a downtrend, we pay more attention to our weak bars than to our strong bars. And it is in a downtrend until it is in an uptrend. So we'll just have to I mean, the good thing, I suppose, is that you're pretty close to zip. I mean, you're 1 cent. I mean, your lowest low before that was 1.1, so you've come into some really low. I mean, I know nothing about the fundamentals of the company, but yeah, you know, it's really, that doesn't mean it can't go lower. It doesn't mean it'll stay low. I mean, they can dribble low for a long time, but really, I would be looking above the 4 cents would be really safe entries, because at the moment we're just trying to bottom pick, and we know what happens with bottom picking. If you get it right, it's really good, but if you don't get it right, it's not so good. This is a daily chart here. High volume up, I don't like these high volume up bars. It's pushing up, but there's a lot of selling on those bars. It's come back, and there's no selling at all. Then we get volume kick in. We don't know what's going on there, but that may possibly be trying to push higher. We just have to see. But we can probably put a little speculative. No, it hasn't quite held it. Probably put a little pitchfork on there, maybe. There's our low. There's our low. Not quite. But I don't like these high volume up bars at all. Low volume, but then it's come back on low volume, so that's okay. It's very erratic, very liquid, so it's very difficult. I think we're best off sticking with the weekly chart on this one and looking for some, looking for it to break a higher low and a higher high, and you've got a lot of weakness now to work through. So if you can get a series of high highs and lows, and even if you waited till it get at least above the close off your big spiky bar here, get above that, and and then we can speculate if we get some sort of uptrend going. We've got one we can put in there now, but it's really speculative. It's really a bit early to be putting that in. You know, we're really pushing the friendship a little bit, but let's see if it can keep going for a little bit yet. But at the moment, I don't like these high volume up bars because it contains selling, but they could be absorbing supply to the left, and it's just they haven't collapsed straight away. They've just consistently kept going up, and then your pullbacks are on light volume, so that's the good thing about it. Okay, this is WHN. Let's go to the daily chart because I've charted it before. I've got this, I had a little pitchfork on there. We must just get that out of the way just to keep the channel there. So we had this basic Wyckoff channel, which is just connecting these two pivot lows and the intervening high. Put a center line on it. It's come back. You can see the high volume, really high volume up. Smart money typically sell on up bars. You know, smart money are active when the volume's really high, and it's knocked it back. So there must have been a lot of selling in this bar for the next bar to close low and for it to collapse. So I've marked the high, low, and close of that bar as important levels to watch, and even the high of the one beside it. You could probably mark off this one as well, just to show we've got above there. There's some weakness on that bar, but it's pushed above there. Now we had the 5 cents here was our important level. I tried to get through there, but it was really on high volume, and we were looking for it to maybe test on top there and confirm. Now it didn't really do that, and it collapsed it back down further. And they found support at the 4.2 level, which is around we found a bit of support at the 4.2, which is around the middle of this channel here. And she's moved up, and she's put in an increase in volume to the 5 cents. Then it's tried to break through that 5 cents. It hasn't cracked that 5 cents yet. It's high volume again on Friday, and it's an up thrust. And that's because you're catching a lot of trapped holders in here, and your buying is a little bit retail still. So that's ended quite weak, so that might have to come back and test again. I would expect, unless what we want to see is for them to on Monday is to see if they want to absorb that supply and keep going up, and then we'll look for them to test back on the 5 cents. And I think they will come back and test on the 5 cents if they do that. But otherwise, they may come back and test within the body of this bar, and then even back down to the top of the channel, top of the trend channel. We'll just have to wait and see. But you do have an uptrend channel. You have found some support at the mid channel, and your last bar was a little bit weak. On your weekly chart, you've got I'll put your trend channel on your weekly chart, because that's what I think we really need to go off on especially on these really liquid stocks, or low volume stocks. So we had our trend channel on the weekly. It's just connecting the lows and the high. Put the midpoint in, it's around there. So we've had high volume up, pushing through the supply, and it's fallen back in, and it's tested within the body of this bar, this high volume. It's found less volume, so that's good. We haven't broken the low of that bar, so that's good as well. Now we had a bit of high volume increase on the previous bar, so it's above that as well. So it's found some support within this at the 4.2 at the moment. So I think that's quite positive. And it's just that 5 cents there. Oh, hang on, what's that? Yeah, the 5 cents. as it's come up. Now it's come back down, it's tested most of the body of the bars. Oh no, it's half and half. That didn't really give us a lot of direction, but there's not a lot of selling pressure on this bar at least. And the next bar has gone up on increased volume, but it's found some supply, and that's from the trapped holders above here. And we want to see now if they're willing to absorb that supply to take out that 5 cents and then come back and retest, or they may test again. Look, if they come back down on light volume back into this area, back towards the channel at the 4.4 or 4.2, around that area, then that would be positive as well, I think. Otherwise, if it wants to break up and above, then we're looking for it to test the 5 cents. If it wanted to break out of this channel altogether, and we wanted to see where it might go if it did that, I'm not saying it will, this is if, then I would just parallel that channel up like that, and then we'd have another look. If it were to break that top bar up and retest, then we can have a look at that top channel there as well. The other thing we can look at is mark off this spiky high volume bar over there as possible resistance one day. Hopefully it gets there for you. We've got this really high volume bar here. That's interesting. What's that? That's around the 5.2 is the bottom of that bar. Okay. But otherwise, you've got your high there as well at 12.5, and they're just some levels we can look at if it ever wants to take off on us. But at the moment, you have got a little bit of an uptrend starting. It's a bit of a wide channel, so I mean, so you can you can go to the other side of the channel and lose half its value and still be in an uptrend. So that's a little bit. I'd be more interested in this middle to see some strong bars in the middle. We did get a sort of a strong bar in the middle, that it's not a lot of selling pressure, and that's confirmed by the next bar up. But we are getting a lot of chop now from trap holders here. We want to see this go up on a bit more volume as well, and then come back and test. Or alternatively, to come back on less volume again and retest in this area. If they think that volume's high. So this is low volume here. So you have your low volume, and then the next bar up, next couple of bars that take that out. So there's your. So that, even though that's low volume relative to what's been happening, it's not really low volume. So they may test again, even before attempting to take out that supply up there. We'll just have to see how that goes. But I mean, it looks okay. You're in an uptrend. It's just and you have found support after it's pulled back. I mean, while it's above that 4 cents there, I think it's looking okay. But as far as taking a new entry goes, I would be waiting for it to break that 5 cents and retest on light volume, or looking at the next light volume test on that middle channel. You've had one bounce off it. A second bounce off that bottom channel and really light volume would be worth a look, I think. So so that's what we can have a look for. Anyway, that's WHN, which is WHL Energy. This is FER. I don't have a lot of history on this stock. Oh, here we go. What have I done here? I've charted it before. By pointing out this low volume down by this, or high volume down, that's shifted the price a bit, and we get high volume down, that's shifted again, and then they push down further. And high volume, that's shifted it up. You'll see where the selling was. This one I originally charted in the black. It must have been when this when that bar first came in. And we wanted it to hold the low of that bar. See, high volume up bar closing off the high, so that's a buying climax. And you just, when you see those, you just want to get out. You don't want to be long. You just want to get out. And it's collapsed down. I've marked off the low of this high volume bar here. Let's come back and push back further into that bar. And we're getting less and less selling as it low and low volume as it comes into that area. And where is it finding support at the moment? We'll probably look at the weekly. You're getting increased volume down, then it has a bounce, increased volume down, then it has a bit of a bounce. We've got, at the moment, we've got very light, low selling pressure on this last down bar, so we've got a bit of buying. So that could be accumulating in the bottom there quite easily. So high volume down here, and the last down, and the next bar is up. The selling pressure reduces, a bit of no demand, but that can happen when you have a high volume down bar. And then it springs up, gaps back over this resistance line, and I've retested it. There's lighter volume down there now. If we have a look at the weekly chart, there we go, nasty 2-bar reversal there, widespread, high volume. I don't have a lot of data there. That's all I've got. And it's come back right down to the bottom of this bar at so the weekly doesn't tell us too much, other than it's found a bit of support at the bottom of that bar. High volume down, narrow spread, that's good, but the next bar is high volume up and closing low, so that's bad. So it's catching supply, and it's supply, there's supply all in this bar. So what we want to see is we want to see it start, some sign that it's starting to work through the supply, and we see that by higher lows and higher highs start happening. Then we can start having put in a little bit of an uptrend. We've probably got a little bit speculative one there we can look at, but we want to put in a bit of an uptrend on the weekly. Look, it's 3 cents. It's 1.5, 3 cents. I mean, it moves erratically. It can move really fast, and it's really difficult to chart, because it can move everywhere. But that's when you see really unusual volume like that, then you know it's the next bar close low. You know it's full of selling, and all those sellers, they'll have buyers in there that are trapped in bad trades, and you're not going to push through that in a hurry. You need some really, unless you get the professionals start buying and push it right through there, but otherwise it's going to need to start showing some higher lows and higher highs to show us that they're maybe accumulating the stock and absorbing the supply in those bars, and it hasn't given us that quite yet. We've got a lower low, trying to put in a higher high, but not looking good at the moment. So it could possibly be some accumulation happening, because it's spent a fair little bit of time going sideways here. So it's held the low of that bar at the 1.1 cents. So I think that's your risk, is the 1.1 cents at the moment. So it's up to you where you want to buy it, but it's not one I would personally want to have anything to do until we put a bit more distance from all this selling that happened here. So, but anyway, that's it. This is JAL Jameson, and it's had this. Don't have too much data for that either. Anyway, this is the weekly chart, and so we'll just have a look at this recent action. We've had this high volume down as it's crashed in April last year, and that's some really high volume there. So I'll just mark the low of that bar. There must have been some buying in that bar, because as it pushes down, the selling at baits, and you get this nice mushroom handle. Well, it's not nice if you're holding, and it just looks like it's going down for weeks and weeks and weeks on end. And but you get this cup sort of forming at the bottom there. So we'll mark off the low of that bar. I'll mark off the high of that bar, so it'll come into its resistance later. Then we get really high volume. This is our highest volume on the map. As they push up through there, So that's probably the one we need to look at now, and it's pushed up and it's knocked it back. Bring it back and test, and you see the volume gets really light now. So it's in that. So there must have been a lot of selling in that bar because it's knocked it back. Smart money typically sell on up bars. It's closed well off the high, so there's buying coming in there, but the professionals are selling it down because they're not interested in higher prices yet. They want lower prices. And then they bring it back and test, and then you see the selling dries right up, and they don't quite hold the bottom of it, but then they push up again, but again it's sold into, comes back, but see the selling pressure gets really, really light as it comes back into this previous area here. And really light volume, and it starts going up on increased volume. More recently, in this bar here, and this bar, they haven't taken out the low of this bar yet, so it looks like a bit of accumulation range there, a little trading range there happening, and that looks like some accumulation happening. And we can have a look at this bar now. That's our last really high volume bar, and it's maintained that low. It's come off, it's gone up, come off. So I'll mark that recent high volume as well. That supported that, and it's tried to go up but on no demand. It's come back down, testing, and there's a lot of testing. See the volume's dried right up on these three bars. It's come back, light volume. That's another testing again in this high volume area. The volume's really light, and it drops down really narrow spread down bar, as narrow as you can get. I mean, half a cent. No selling pressure whatsoever there, and I think that can run. I think they can make a move up, at least to the back up to the top of the range again, because there's no pressure, there's no selling there. You had effort to get up there. They've supported this low, and you see that it's come back down, gone up. They've come back, tested. It's shot up, but they haven't put a lot of oomph behind it. Come back and test it again, test it again, test it again on less and less supply. We like low volume down bars because we don't like low volume up bars, but we like low volume down bars because that shows some testing. And what you want to see is this to rise now in the next 1 or 2 days and and it can rise up to it'll rise back up to the 18 cents if it does that. If it doesn't rise, and if the price drops now, then that would show that there was a lack of interest. And that would become a sign of weakness then. But at the moment, it's a sign of strength. It's potentially strong, and it needs to. We want to see the next bar closing up. If the next bar can close up above there and be widespread like that on a bit more volume, we don't want a lot. We just want a little bit. And close up and stand tall and proud like this one here, a bit more spread. You could buy that and it would go for a run, but we don't. Where it ran to, we don't know. But you've got your 18 cents, you've got the 22 cents there. But we're looking for the confirmation bar now. If it drops again, then that would just show that that they weren't interested, unless there was a really high volume down bar like this. See, you get low volume, then a really narrow spread down bar. Sometimes they can do this on these penny stocks. They hit it down really hard, but it doesn't go very far, and then it springs. But anyway, we can have a look at that. But I think that's looking actually okay there at the moment. No selling pressure there at all. This low, most importantly, this low has been supported, and this low here has been supported, and I think that'll move back up to the top of the range at least, and then you can look at the 22.5 cents, and then we've got our other pivots all the way up that we can look at. But that's looking okay. I think that's looking okay. At present, it's maintained a range, and there's not a lot of selling in that range at the moment, and I think that can run. If it were to run, then you can put fibs on it. You can do and it's that 23.6 cents there, and probably the safer entry would be to wait for it to get above your really high volume here and then test. But I think if it tests, that looks like a test there, and if the next bar closes up on slightly more volume, then it'll run, but we don't know where it's going to run to. It might just run to the top of the range. But if you see that pattern happen on top of this high volume there, then you'll have a lot of background strength behind you, and that could run quite high actually. Then you've got your pivots, and you've got your 50% fib there as well, will probably be important. You can retrace to. That's around the 33 cents. So, I think it's looking okay at the moment. You can put a little speculative channel there. It's not a really good one. No. But your safe entry will be above your high volume, and then test and up, and then away she goes. But at the moment, there's no selling pressure on it where it is at the moment, and that can run. It's just we don't know if it's going to just find resistance at the top there or break out. But if it can break out of this 18 cents and come back and test, then she can run. She'll be able to run because she spent a bit of time going sideways and accumulating. So that's good.